Hey everyone, it's Indigo. Today is a very dreary afternoon, and I want to read a story for you guys. This is something that I've written years ago, maybe 4 years by now. And I had originally wrote it in Dutch, but I've since translated it in English. So some of the structures might be a bit strange, but it's a vampire story, so I hope you will like it. It's not done, by the way, but it's just a little something I wrote that I wanted to share with you guys. So sit back, enjoy. Nerves swirled through my lower stomach. I had the distinct feeling I was about to do something irreversible. I looked at his front door, and suddenly I wasn't so sure of my cause. Sebastian had been very clear. "I don't care about you anymore." When he said that, I had needed him. I had needed him more than ever, because my life was in danger. That danger had passed, because now I was dead. Not really dead. I wasn't a ghost or a walking corpse. I was undead, a vampire, if you will. I hadn't dared saying the word out loud. It was too hard to even think it without giggling. Not that it was a laughing matter. When Sebastian and me had our last fight about 2 weeks ago, the one where he told me he was done with me, I was broken. I knew there hadn't been a chance for friendship, but I didn't want to realize it back then. I was confused and let my judgment be clouded by a boy. Oh well, boy. He must have been a boy before, but when I met him he was way past that point. He was outside of time, frozen in an era that wasn't mine. That fact was probably what attracted me to him. The way his shoulder-length blonde hair fell back into place when he ran his hand through it, and his icy, light blue eyes probably contributed as well. I went home with him rather quickly after meeting him, and that's where things got hazy. It was around 1 a.m. when I arrived at his house. The windows were blacked out by thick blankets, and the interior was sober. Littered through the place were tiny little puzzles, and 2 empty bottles of wine stood next to a single couch. The boy, who introduced himself a few hours ago as Thomas, didn't talk much. He offered me a glass of white wine, which I drained quickly. A nagging feeling told me this wasn't a good idea, but sadness and anger won over my common sense. Just like when I stood in front of Sebastian's front door, I had always let my emotions lead me, as opposed to rational thinking. As I said, I don't remember much of that moment. What I remember is being carried up the stairs, and Thomas laying me down on a ridiculously large bed. I felt a sharp pain in my neck, and Thomas's tongue lapping roughly at the puncture wounds. Somewhere in a faraway place in my mind, I realized this wasn't good. Not good at all. But I couldn't move. I couldn't resist. Only surrender. Then Thomas talked. I only remember fragments. Such a waste. A waste not to. Relax, dear Lena. It won't hurt anymore soon. He was right about that part. Pain slowly started to fade away, as well as the room and the bed I was in. At the end I only felt Thomas's weight on me, then something hot and sticky dripping on my lips, entering my mouth, and then nothing. For a moment there was absolutely nothing. Only that moment felt like a split second and an eternity at the same time. When reality started to fade back in, it started with an all-consuming thirst. When I'd still been alive, I'd been extremely thirsty before, on a hot summer's day where I'd been stupid enough to forget a bottle of water. But this was on an entirely different level. My throat was on fire. I opened my eyes and I looked around me in the dusty room. I recognized it as the one I was carried into, but it was entirely different. I saw every detail, every mote of dust slowly falling through the air. The blanket that I was still under felt way too hot, and I threw it off. Immediately, I brought my hands to cover my ears. The sound of the rustling blankets nearly hurt. Sound was too loud. My vision was extremely good, and my throat still burned like crazy. I tried to make a sound to call out, but my voice just creaked. Quickly I stepped out of bed and tried the bedroom door. Naturally, it was locked, like a bad horror movie, one of those that Sebastian liked so much. From the corner of my eye, I spotted something white, so my last thought was quickly banished. I almost fell over when I turned around on my feet. A fridge. A fridge! I barely took the time to rip off the post-it that only had one word on it. Enjoy. Part of me shouldn't be surprised at the sight upon opening the little fridge. Around 4 plastic bags with white lettering, filled with a red, sticky liquid. At that point, something animalistic took over. I grabbed one of the bags and ripped into it with my teeth. Somewhere I registered that it went surprisingly well. Eagerly I let the liquid slide through my throat, and the burning sensation instantly got quenched. After I downed all 4 bags, I let myself slide to the floor. I was ashamed for what I've done. I drank blood. The thirst subsided, but instead of feeling of shame, of pure disgust for myself took its place. And then I did the only thing that I could at that moment. I called Sebastian. From my blood-spattered vest, I dug out my phone and selected his number. On the top of the screen, I saw it was around 9 p.m., so he was probably home. 1, 2, 3 times the phone rang. Who is this? I felt my stomach constrict. It seemed he had deleted my phone number, or he wouldn't pick up like that. It's Lena, but before you hang up, I need you. I'm not doing well, and I don't know, and I stumbled over my words. Why are you calling me? I told you I was done with you, I heard Sebastian say coldly. Hot tears welled up in my eyes and streaked my cheeks. I sobbed once loudly and continued weakly. I didn't know who else to call. I think I'm hurt. Sebastian interrupted me. I don't care about you anymore. I let the phones drop from my hands. Thick, wet tears still ran from my eyes. I tried to wipe them away with the sleeve of my vest, and to my surprise I saw they weren't normal tears, but my own blood. And right at that moment the bedroom door opened. Thomas stood in the opening and looked at the scene in front of him with a smile forming on his lips. Ah, I see you've awoken. Faster than I expected, actually. I looked at him, puzzled. You only slept for a day. Most stay under for much longer, if they wake up at all, that is, he continued. The gears in my head turned at his statement. Most? If they wake up? What did you do to me? I demanded. You haven't made the connection, huh? He answered, with a grin. I made you. Or well, made you how you are right now. Improved senses, sight, hearing, smell, a thirst for blood. I could only stare at him, dumbfounded. A vampire, he added, dryly. The 2 weeks that followed flew by. I learned a lot about what I was now, and I quickly realized that the world I had lived in for 21 years wasn't mine anymore. Firstly, I couldn't go outside during the day. Thomas told me that I wouldn't burst into flames right away, as the stories went, but it would be an extremely painful affair. Secondly, people seemed to look down on going out in the dead of night and draining people of their blood. Hunting for the first time was very hard. I didn't want to hurt anyone, and especially not kill them. Thomas assured me that nothing bad would happen, and he was still around in case things went wrong. My first victim was a slightly younger boy. He was hanging around the deserted skateboarding park, probably waiting for someone. With an incoherent story, I was able to lead him out of sight of the street lights. He looked at me, questioningly. I suspected I had the same look on my face the first time I met Thomas. Then I noticed the slowly throbbing vein in the boy's neck. I went into a hyper-focus. The smell coming off from his skin was intoxicating, very different than the blood packs I'd been living on so far. Before I'd let him away, I had my doubts. But standing there, the scent of his blood filling me up, something else took over. I felt my canines lengthen and sharpen, but still hidden under my upper lip. I grabbed a hold of the boy's upper arms, digging my nails into his skin and pressing my face into his neck. I inhaled deeply and ran my tongue along the artery that was in direct connection with his now fast-beating heart. Upon sinking my teeth into his skin, hot blood poured out immediately. I lapped it up quickly and closed my lips around the bite, sucking his blood out. Never did register him resisting, trying to push him away. The only thing my world consisted of in that moment was an animal urge and the feeling of his blood entering my own bloodstream. Suddenly, I felt a hand on my shoulder, pulling me back with slight pressure. "You have to stop. It's enough." Slowly, I returned back to myself and realized what I was doing. Frightened, I let go of my hold on the boy and he slid down to the ground. Oh, he's alive, yes," I brought out. I felt like the world's biggest hypocrite while I licked the remnants of his blood from my lips. "You're a vampire now, Lena. Do what I taught you." Carefully, I hovered over the boy, putting my finger on his wrist and felt for a pulse. A slow, steady heartbeat. "You'll make it. I warned you on time," I heard Thomas say. The next thing I did was also what Thomas told me. My blood, our blood, had certain healing properties. It was how we were made, after all. A balancing act on the verge of death, and then having a healthy dose of vampire blood administered just before death. On my still sharp fangs, I punctured the tip of my pointing finger and wiped a drop of blood across the bite wounds I had made. Almost instantaneously, the skin melted back close. I stood up straight and turned around. Thomas's eyes were gloating. "You're done. I taught you what you needed to know, and now you can survive. I release you. Farewell, Lena." Before I could respond, he was gone. Directly after his words, I felt an emptiness, like a delicate string that bound us had been snapped. In a haze I ran to Thomas's house, where I had lived for the past 2 weeks. Not much has changed, only the puzzles and games were gone. My few possessions that I had on me that night I met him were stacked up neatly in the hallway. I couldn't stay in that place, and I couldn't go home back to my parents either. Even if they'd understand or accept me back, I'd still be afraid of hurting them. Suddenly, anger took over. Thomas might have taught me the basics of being undead, but I had only hunted once. My restraint wasn't trained at all. I wandered around for a week. Somewhere I knew where I was supposed to go, but I didn't want to admit it to myself. The hurt and the anger that I still felt towards Sebastian only got fed more and more. Besides that, we still had our pact. "If you could have eternal life, something like a vampire, would you want that?" I asked him, jokingly. "Yeah, of course. That'd be awesome," Sebastian answered, sitting across the couch from me. "What would be awesome about it, besides living forever and seeing technology advance?" "Well," he started, "there are plenty of people that I'd like to visit." "You mean taking revenge?" I asked. "Something like that." I looked at him questioningly. "Would you visit me?" He waited a bit before answering. He knew me well enough to know what I wanted to hear. "You'd want that, huh?" "Of course." I punched his shoulder. "Not for revenge, but, you know what I mean." He grinned, and when I didn't reply, I added, "Would you turn me into a vampire, if such a thing existed?" "Sure, if you want to." I entertained the thought for a moment. "Yeah, I would. You?" Like I said, awesome." He winked, and I rolled my eyes. Somehow, I took that little pact a lot more serious now than I did at the time, because it gave me a reason to visit him, to at least see him, to smell him, and taste him, and take revenge, a little voice in the back of my mind offered. And that's how I stood there eventually, late at night, on his doorstep. I was happy he lived alone, but I felt anxious, nerves fluttering in my stomach. I mustered up all my courage and pressed the doorbell. I heard the TV hit on, how his couch creaked when he got up. I heard him run his hand through his hair, trying to fix it up. I heard his footsteps led him down the hallway, and eventually how his hand locked around the doorknob and turned. "Lena? Why are you here?" I saw different emotions on his face. Shock, surprise, and something that I've gotten very acquainted with over the past few weeks. It was on the faces of every single of my prey, a dangerous curiosity. I was taken over by a hunger that I can barely even describe. His scent, his warmth. I never smelled something so utterly delicious. Later I would learn that the more attracted you are to someone, the more intense their scent. The animal inside me growled and snarled. With a barely audible click, my canines protruded and sharpened, one of my many weapons as a hunter. The only thing about this display was that I covered my mouth with my hand in shame. I had to see you, I stammered from behind my hands. What happened to you? You look very different. The admiration was clear in his eyes. For a moment I closed my own eyes, trying not to inhale too deeply. With some effort I forced my fangs back in their normal position and put up the most innocent face I could. Can I please come in? I nearly begged him. Lena, I don't know, I didn't want... I knew what I had to do. I leaned my face close to Sebastian's. I saw he wanted to pull back, but something stopped him. When our faces were only a few inches apart, I unleashed my powers. You want to let me in? You will invite me into your home when I say okay. Okay? Sebastian's eyes were staring into mine mindlessly. The only thing in his mind was me. It took all of my self-control to not drown in his scent. Okay, I said, breaking the connection. Come in, Lena. I stepped into the hallway passing him, through the hall into the living room, and there I sat down on his couch, with my legs curled up under me. Sebastian followed me, still slightly dazed. We met eyes for a moment. Lena, why are you here? Where have you been? I leaned back on the couch, taking time and stretching my body, taking in the sights from around the room. I saw that not a lot had changed. Sebastian's room was typical for a 23-year-old living on his own. A big television opposing the couch, with a gaming console hooked up to it. Books, collectibles, and knickknacks littered the shelves, closet, and floor. He definitely hadn't tidied up in a while. I looked back up at Sebastian. He was still standing awkwardly in the middle of the room. Come, sit down, I urged him, while patting the spot next to me. Never taking my eyes off mine, he sat down, and I turned toward him. So, I started, cocking my head to the side. Where have I been? Seems like such a long time ago, you know? Sebastian just stared at me, a mix of that typical curiosity and uneasiness on his face. Gosh, I don't even know where to start. We had our big fight, then I met someone. Then I called you because I was in mortal danger. I counted it off on my fingers. Then you told me you didn't care about me anymore. And the last few weeks I kind of fended on my own. Oh, and I died as well. So have your past weeks been? I concluded sarcastically. Wait, what? He demanded, snapping out of his stupor. You died? What the hell, Lena? You call me with some weird story, go missing for weeks, and then you arrive at my doorstep telling me you died? What? You don't believe me? I mean, I should have expected that after you hung up on me like that, but... I took a big gulp of air, thick with its aroma, and on cue my fangs stood out. Still. His eyes went wide as I grinned at him, running my tongue along my teeth. You remember our little pact, Sebastian? If we discover the secret to eternal life and superhuman power. Well, I found it, and here I am. He looked at me, his face possibly even paler than mine. This can't be real. If you're playing some kind of trick, this isn't funny, he said, slowly inching away from me. Oh, I do have a few tricks, but I can assure you it's all very real. But enough of that. I am not the girl you hurt anymore, I taunted, all anxiety left behind, as the thrill of this cat and mouse game stirred something way more powerful inside me. But I do keep my promises. And though, for revenge, sure, you know. Haven't decided yet, I said as I crawled over to him. A flash of panic shot through him, his heartbeat picking up fast. Growling, I inhaled sharply, his scent making me dizzy, the thrumming of his heart making my head spin. Faster than he could even try and react, I was on top of him, straddling his lap, and he made some feeble attempts at pushing me off. My face was already nuzzled against his neck. I shivered as I dragged my tongue once, twice over his skin, before digging my fangs into his flesh. My world spun around its axis as his blood started seeping down my throat. A deep, guttural moan escaped me as I drank greedily, waves of ecstasy I've never experienced engulfing me.